You know what most people think when they hit 50? They think, well, my arteries are probably starting to get clogged by now. That's just what happens. That's part of aging, and they accept it. They think, I'll probably need medication eventually. That's just the reality of getting older. But here's what I want to ask you. Is that actually true? Or is that a lie we've been told so many times that we've started believing it? The truth is, your arteries don't have to deteriorate as you age. They don't have to get clogged. They don't have to become stiff and inflexible. And you don't have to spend the rest of your life on medication waiting for something bad to happen. That's not aging. That's neglect. But here's the thing that gets me. Most people never learn what's actually happening inside their arteries. They never understand the mechanics. So they don't know how to prevent the damage. They just think, well, I'll eat less salt and take a statin and hope for the best. But when you actually understand what's happening inside your arteries, when you understand the real mechanics of how they work, you realize something profound. You can keep your arteries healthy after 50, not just functional, not just barely adequate, but actually healthy, actually young, actually flexible and responsive the way they're supposed to be. Let me explain the mechanics of this, because once you understand it, everything else makes sense. Think about your arteries like pipes, but not just any pipes. Pipes in a house that's been well maintained. These pipes have flexible walls. These walls are lined with something called endothelial cells. These cells create something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide tells your arteries to expand, to relax, to stay flexible and young. But when you feed your body the wrong things, when you expose your arteries to inflammatory compounds, when you don't give your endothelial cells what they need, something happens. The cells get damaged. They stop producing nitric oxide. Your arteries become stiff. They can't expand properly. Plaque starts to accumulate, and that's when you're in trouble. But here's the beautiful part. Your endothelial cells, these cells that line your arteries, they're not permanent. They're constantly regenerating. Every single day, your body is creating new endothelial cells, and you have complete control over whether those new cells are healthy or damaged. You have complete control over whether your arteries stay young and flexible or become old and stiff. It all depends on what you feed them, what you expose them to, what signals you send to your body about how to rebuild those cells. Let me tell you about someone. His name is Robert. He's 58 years old, spent 40 years in a high-stress corporate job. And about 2 years ago, he got the news. His doctor ran some tests and said, your arteries aren't in great shape. We need to talk about getting you on some medication. Robert wasn't sick. He didn't have symptoms. But the test showed that his arteries were stiffer than they should be. There was some plaque beginning to accumulate, and his doctor wanted to put him on medication to manage it. But Robert asked a question that changed everything. He said, isn't there any way to actually fix this? Not manage it, but actually fix it. And his doctor basically said no. Said that once your arteries start to deteriorate, the best you can do is slow down the deterioration with medication. Robert didn't like that answer. So he came to me and asked, is there anything I can actually do to restore my arteries to health? And I said, yes, absolutely yes. There's a protocol, a very specific way of living that actually restores your endothelial function, that tells your body to create healthy new endothelial cells that keeps your arteries flexible and young and healthy. And it doesn't require medication. It requires understanding and action. I taught him this protocol. And within 6 months, his doctor repeated the tests. The results shocked him. His arterial flexibility had improved significantly. The plaque wasn't accumulating. His endothelial function had actually regenerated. His doctor was baffled. Asked Robert what he was doing differently. So let me introduce you to the first step of this arterial health protocol. And this is the immediate micro win. This is the thing that starts working right away. The moment you understand arterial health, the first thing you need to do is eliminate trans fats from your diet completely. Trans fats are in processed foods. They're in margarine, they're in some vegetable shortening, they're in many commercially baked goods. And trans fats are literally poison to your endothelial cells. They damage them. They create inflammation. They accelerate arterial deterioration. Robert went through his kitchen. He threw away his margarine. He eliminated processed foods that contained trans fats. He looked at his condiments and his packaged foods, and he removed anything that listed partially hydrogenated oils as an ingredient. This is the immediate action. This is the thing you can do today. Just this one change, just eliminating trans fats, Robert noticed a difference within days. He felt lighter, his digestion improved, because his arteries and his digestive system were no longer being attacked by inflammatory compounds. But that's just the first step, because removing the bad is only half the equation. You also have to add the good. And the first superfood you need to add is pomegranate. Pomegranate is loaded with something called punicolagens. Punicolagens are powerful polyphenols that support your endothelial function. They help your endothelial cells produce more nitric oxide. They reduce inflammation in your arteries. They literally tell your body to keep your arteries young and flexible. Robert started eating pomegranate regularly. He'd have a bowl of pomegranate seeds as a snack. Or he'd drink pomegranate juice, the pure juice, without added sugar. And within 2 weeks, he noticed something remarkable. His energy was different. His circulation felt better. His body felt more alive. And here's what was happening underneath. The polyphenols in the pomegranate were reaching his endothelial cells and telling them, your job is important. You need to produce nitric oxide. You need to keep these arteries healthy and flexible. And his cells were listening. They were responding. They were beginning the process of regeneration. The second step is about movement, real cardiovascular stimulus, because your arteries don't just stay healthy on their own. They stay healthy when they're being challenged, when blood is flowing through them with adequate pressure, when your heart is pumping efficiently. Most people over 50, they're sedentary. They sit all day. And when your arteries aren't being challenged, when blood isn't flowing through them with adequate force, they get lazy. They start to stiffen. They start to deteriorate. Robert made a commitment. He started doing cardiovascular exercise. Not intense exercise, just brisk walking. About 30 minutes a day, 4 to 5 times a week, nothing extreme. Just consistent cardiovascular stimulus, and within a few weeks, something shifted. His cardiovascular system became more responsive. His blood pressure started to normalize. His arteries were being challenged. They were being stimulated to stay young and flexible. The third step is a specific nutrient that most people are deficient in, and this nutrient is absolutely critical for arterial health. It's called folate. Folate helps reduce something called homocysteine. Homocysteine is an amino acid that damages your endothelial cells when it gets too high. It's one of the biggest risk factors for arterial deterioration that nobody talks about. Most people, they're not getting enough folate. They're not eating enough dark leafy greens. They're not getting enough vegetables. And so their homocysteine levels rise and their arteries get damaged. Robert made a simple change. He started eating more dark leafy greens, spinach, kale, arugula. He was getting folate naturally from real food, and his homocysteine levels started to drop. Within a month, his blood tests showed improvement in this marker that his doctor had never even mentioned before. The fourth step is where the real synergy starts to emerge, because your arteries don't just stay healthy from one thing. They stay healthy from the combination of all these factors working together. And the fourth factor is stress management. Here's something most people don't realize. Chronic stress damages your endothelial cells just as much as trans fats do. When you're stressed, your body releases cortisol. Cortisol causes inflammation in your arteries. It impairs nitric oxide production. It accelerates arterial aging. Robert had spent 40 years in a high-stress job. His cortisol had been elevated for decades. His body was essentially in a constant state of stress, and that stress was directly damaging his arteries. So we made a change. He didn't quit his job, but he made stress management a priority. He started a simple meditation practice, just 10 minutes a day, nothing complicated, just sitting quietly and focusing on his breath. And within a week, he could feel the difference. His nervous system was calmer. His blood pressure dropped a few points. His body was no longer in constant fight or flight mode. And here's what was happening underneath. By managing his stress, by reducing his cortisol levels, he was literally reducing the inflammatory assault on his endothelial cell. He was giving his body the chance to heal. He was telling his arteries, it's okay, you're safe, you can relax and regenerate. So Robert now had 4 major changes in place. He'd eliminated trans fats, he'd added pomegranate, he'd added cardiovascular exercise, he'd added stress management, and his arteries were already beginning to regenerate. But there were 3 more steps, 3 more pieces that would complete the protocol and take his arterial health to levels his doctor would consider remarkable. Now, Robert had 4 powerful things in place. He'd eliminated the inflammatory compounds that were damaging his endothelial cells. He'd added pomegranate to support those cells. He'd added cardiovascular stimulus to challenge his arteries in a healthy way. He'd reduced his stress so his body wasn't constantly bathed in cortisol. And his arterial health was already improving. But he wanted to know if there was more he could do to accelerate the regeneration even further. And that's when I introduced him to the 5th step, omega-3 fatty acids. Now, you've probably heard about omega-3s before. Fish oil, salmon, all that stuff. But do you actually know what omega-3s do to your arteries? They're literally the opposite of trans fats. Where trans fats damage your endothelial cells, omega-3s repair them. Where trans fats cause inflammation, omega-3s reduce inflammation. Where trans fats make your arteries stiff, omega-3s keep them flexible. Robert started eating salmon twice a week. Real salmon, wild caught when possible. And he started adding walnuts and flax seeds to his diet as additional sources of omega-3s. Within 2 weeks, his blood test showed improvement in his inflammatory markers. His arteries were being actively repaired. His endothelial cells were getting the raw materials they needed to regenerate. But here's what's interesting. Robert noticed something beyond the blood tests. He had more energy. His joints felt better. His brain felt clearer. Because omega-3s don't just improve your arterial health. They improve your entire cardiovascular system. They improve your neurological function. They reduce inflammation throughout your entire body. The 6th step is something that most people completely overlook, but it's absolutely critical for maintaining arterial health over time. It's about what you drink throughout the day. Most people over 50, they're dehydrated chronically, and dehydration thickens your blood. Thicker blood is harder to pump. It damages your endothelial cells because it creates more friction. It accelerates arterial deterioration. Robert looked at his drinking habits. He was having coffee in the morning, maybe some juice, maybe some soda. His water intake was inconsistent, so he made a change. He committed to drinking half his body weight in ounces of water every single day. For Robert, that was about 90 ounces of water daily, not all at once, but distributed throughout the day. And here's what he noticed. Within a week, his blood pressure dropped a few more points. His energy improved. His digestion improved. Because when your blood is properly hydrated, when it's the right viscosity, when it flows smoothly through your arteries, everything works better. Your endothelial cells aren't being stressed. They're not being damaged by thick, sluggish blood. They can focus on regeneration. But there's more to this step than just water. Robert also started drinking something specific, green tea. Green tea contains compounds called catechins that directly support endothelial function. They help your endothelial cells produce nitric oxide. They reduce inflammation in your arteries. Robert made a habit. Every afternoon, around 3 o'clock, he'd make himself a cup of green tea. Not the sweet stuff, just pure green tea. And he'd sip it slowly. And what he noticed was that his afternoon energy was better. His blood pressure was more stable. His arteries were being actively supported throughout the entire day. The seventh and final step is the one that brings everything together. It's about optimizing your cholesterol profile. And here's where most people get confused. Because there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. And while medications can lower your bad cholesterol, what really matters for arterial health is something called your cholesterol particle size. See, you can have two people with the same total cholesterol number, but one of them has large, fluffy cholesterol particles, and the other has small, dense cholesterol particles. The person with small, dense particles is at much higher risk for arterial damage. The person with large, fluffy particles is fine. And here's what determines your cholesterol particle size: what you eat. Specifically, how many refined carbohydrates you consume. When you eat refined carbohydrates, when you eat sugar and white flour and processed foods, your body converts them to triglycerides. And triglycerides are what make your cholesterol particles small and dense and dangerous. Robert made a major dietary shift. He eliminated refined carbohydrates. He removed white bread, white rice, pasta. He removed sugary foods. He removed processed foods. And he replaced them with real food: vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats, whole grains when he had grains at all. Within 6 weeks of making this dietary change, Robert's cholesterol particle size had improved significantly. His triglycerides had dropped, his good cholesterol had increased, and his bad cholesterol was smaller in quantity anyway because his body wasn't converting excess carbohydrates into triglycerides. This seventh step is powerful because it addresses the metabolic foundation of arterial health. It's not about restricting calories. It's not about deprivation. It's about eating real food that your body actually knows how to process. Food that doesn't damage your arteries. Food that actually supports them. Now let me show you what Robert's complete day looked like. Because when you see how all 7 of these steps fit together, when you see the actual structure of a day that supports arterial health, you realize how achievable this really is. He wakes up at 6:30. First thing, he drinks a glass of water, just plain water. He's rehydrating after sleep. He's supporting his blood viscosity. He's setting his body up for a day of arterial health. By 7 o'clock, he has breakfast, real food, maybe eggs with whole grain toast, maybe oatmeal with berries and nuts. Real food that gives him stable blood sugar and doesn't damage his endothelial cells. Throughout the morning, he's drinking water, not excessive amounts, just steady hydration. He's keeping his blood properly hydrated so it flows smoothly through his arteries. By 9 or 10 in the morning, he might have some pomegranate, a handful of pomegranate seeds, or he'll drink a small glass of pomegranate juice. He's getting those polyphenols into his system. He's actively supporting his endothelial function. Noon comes around. Lunch. More real food. Maybe salmon. Maybe chicken with vegetables. Always paired with vegetables. Always olive oil or avocado oil if there's any added fat. He's getting omega-3s. He's getting antioxidants from the vegetables. He's supporting his arterial health through every meal. Mid-afternoon, around 3 o'clock, he makes his green tea. He sips it slowly. He's getting those catechins. He's supporting his endothelial cells during the afternoon slump when most people's energy and cardiovascular functions start to decline. He's also staying active throughout the day. He's not sitting all day. He gets up periodically. He moves. He goes for a walk if he can. He's providing consistent cardiovascular stimulus. He's challenging his arteries to stay young and flexible. Dinner comes around 6 or 7. Again, real food. Maybe more salmon. Maybe grass-fed beef with roasted vegetables. maybe chicken with a big salad, no refined carbohydrates, no processed foods, just food that supports his arterial health. Evening, after dinner, he might have a cup of herbal tea, something calming. He's winding down. He's managing his stress by not being overstimulated in the evening. He's allowing his body to shift into recovery mode. Before bed, he reviews his water intake for the day. Did he hit his target? Usually he did. He's maintaining consistent hydration, and then he sleeps. And while he sleeps, while his body is in repair mode, his endothelial cells are regenerating. His arteries are healing. The stimulus from the day is being converted into actual physiological improvement. This is the rhythm. This is the pattern. And when Robert followed this pattern consistently, when he didn't try to be perfect but just maintain the general direction, his arteries transformed. Now, I want to address something directly because I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, I'm 65, I probably got significant arterial damage by now. How is eliminating trans fats and eating pomegranate going to fix that? Let me tell you something remarkable. Your arteries have an incredible capacity to heal. Your endothelial cells are regenerating every single day. Every single day, you're creating new endothelial cells. And you have complete control over whether those new cells are healthy or damaged. The research is clear on this. People who make these kinds of dietary and lifestyle changes, people who actually support their arterial health, they see significant improvement in their arterial function within 6 to 8 weeks. Not years, not decades of waiting. Weeks. Robert's doctor was shocked when he retested him after 6 months. Said he'd seen improvement in people on statins that took years to achieve. Robert achieved it in 6 months through lifestyle changes. Because when you're actually addressing the root cause, when you're actually regenerating healthy endothelial cells, instead of just lowering cholesterol numbers with a pill, the improvements are real and they're significant. You're not too old. You're not too far gone. Your arteries aren't permanently damaged. They're just starving for the right support. And the moment you start providing that support, the moment you start sending your body the right signals, they begin to heal. Robert told me something that moved me. He said, I thought I was destined to be on medication for the rest of my life. I thought my arteries were broken and there was nothing I could do about it. But they weren't broken. They were just neglected. And when I started taking care of them, when I actually gave my body what it needed, they came back. They actually healed. That's the power of understanding arterial health. That's the power of taking action instead of accepting a prescription and hoping for the best. Your arteries are waiting for you to wake up. Your endothelial cells are waiting for the right support. Your cardiovascular system is waiting to function optimally again. And it all starts with understanding that arterial health isn't something you lose with age. It's something you maintain or neglect through your daily choices. Every single day you eliminate trans fats, you're choosing arterial health. Every time you eat pomegranate or salmon, you're choosing arterial health. Every time you move your body, every time you manage your stress, every time you drink water instead of soda, you're voting for healthy arteries. And the beautiful thing is, this isn't deprivation. This isn't punishment. This is actually living better. This is having more energy. This is having better cardiovascular function. This is knowing that your arteries are healthy and you're not going to have a sudden heart attack out of nowhere. In our next video, I'm going to show you the specific supplement protocol that works alongside this arterial health program to accelerate your results even further. Because there are 3 particular compounds that, when combined with this lifestyle protocol, can actually reverse some of the arterial damage that's already accumulated. Your arteries are waiting to be healed. Your endothelial cells are waiting to regenerate. Your cardiovascular future is waiting to be bright. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that video. Because when you combine this arterial health protocol with the supplement support I'm going to reveal, that's when your cardiovascular system doesn't just stabilize, that's when it actually improves. That's when your doctor looks at your test results and can't believe the transformation. Your arteries are waiting, your heart is waiting, your future is waiting, and it all starts with these 7 steps. Simple, science-backed, powerful. Take care of yourself. Your arteries are counting on you to finally listen.